And then these people, they came out and were like, let's go back to Egypt. Because at least they have lentils and onions and meat. And sometimes we forget how bad the slavery was. We forget how bad the bondage was. And we're like, oh, it's getting cold. Then we go back to that temptation whose name is probably Ricky or Sarah or Sally or Sam. Let's go back there and let me get my fix.
Yes.
Even though that fix is going to make you worse than when you even started.
Flee.
Run.
That's what it is. That's exactly what it is. Like, when temptations come your way, flee, because you know what? It's not worth it. The wages of sin is death. Yes, we are sinners, and we are transformed through Christ. We are born again through Christ. But when sin comes our way, yes, like temptations look so beautiful. It's temporary. It's not going to be permanent. Whatever you feel, maybe, for example, alcohol, it just makes you forget your pain, maybe for a couple of hours, maybe just for 6 hours. Then what do? You come back empty, you run on empty. So yes, it's easy for me to say flee and run away, but I feel like when you actually, and I'll take this back to having a relationship with Christ. When you have tasted the Lord and when you know where your roots are, I don't think it's hard for you to stay away from temptations. And I believe that firmly because even in my life, like there are so many things that temptations come your way. Like, it's just not like alcohol. It can be like little habits, maybe anger, and I think like, I think being angry also is a temptation, I feel like. And because when you're angry, you are tempted to say some stuff which is not very spiritual. And I feel like, some other people's temptation is not my temptation. For me, it's not going to be hard to stay away from smoking compared to someone else. Like, for them, it might be smoking for them. For me, it might be just like, maybe just talking rude stuff. So I feel like it can like vary from person to person, but I feel like it all comes down to like, where do you stand your ground? Where, like, what's your life? What are you standing on? If you're standing on the promises of God and if you lean back to God, I feel like it can make things easier for you.
That is so good, because there's so many people, they're chasing these worldly things and they're not chasing God, and then they just fall into the temptation. And this reminds me of the children of Israel. God, with a mighty hand, took them out of Egypt, and then they got to they went to the Red Sea, started complaining. God got them through the Red Sea. They got to the desert. They started complaining. They built a golden calf. And then these people, they came out and were like, let's go back to Egypt. Because at least they have lentils and onions and meat. And sometimes we forget how bad the slavery was. We forget how bad the bondage was. And we're like, oh, it's getting cold. Then we go back to that temptation whose name is probably Ricky or Sarah or Sally or Sam. Let's go back there and let me get my fix.
Yes.
Even though that fix is going to make you worse than when you even started.
Yes. 100%.
Steffi, can we be real? This is a real podcast. Can we be real, Steffi?
Like, I mean, even on our day-to-day life, in residency, for like me and you will understand that, like, residency is tough, like you work so many hours, you're like facing the challenges, and sometimes you feel like, oh my gosh, like, can I just get a break from this? I don't want to be here. I just want to be done with this, but we forget that 2 years before or 1 year before, when we were medical students, we were yearning to be where we are now, So I feel like it kind of like follows the same story what you were talking about, the Israelites chiding over, like their past, and how, oh my God, this is the land here, Canaan, you got me here, but all you give me is manna from heaven, and I have to come here and like, just eat something that looks like popcorn every single time. I was better off being a slave in Egypt, getting flogged by the people, Pharaoh's people. So, and I think it all comes down to human nature. And I feel like that's why that's why we need Jesus to help us see what God wants us to see, so that we become Christ-like.
Yeah. Oh, you speaking good. Because if you just think about it, to go back to the Israelites.
Yeah.
The only reason God sent Moses, because he said, I've heard the cries of my people.
Yes.
So they're crying about it, and they were contemplating now to go back to it.
Yes.
This is a question to everyone listening. How many of us have cried about a situation, and then God takes us out of that situation, and now we're yearning to go back to that situation?
Yeah.
Because, don't get me wrong, I love being a resident, but not once has it popped in my head, like, I want to go back to being a medical student. That had never popped into my head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's wild how you say like human nature. Because if you look in the beginning, Adam and Eve, they had everything. They even had the presence of God himself. He came and walked with them every day. Yeah. And they still ate the fruit. Yep. God right in front of them.
The one thing God said, don't do it. The one thing out of the whole garden, you can do whatever you want. You can sit on that tree. You can go embrace the other tree. You can do whatever you want. But don't touch this particular fruit. So I think also temptations doesn't come from God. God never tempts you. It's the devil. So we need to be on our guard, and we need to be aware and be sober, be vigilant about the tactics of the enemy.
That is so... Come on, Steffi. Come on, little preacher. You all right? You're not only a doctor. I see you. Because you talk about Eve, don't eat the fruit. That's one thing. Don't do it. Don't do it. And I always wonder, why was she so close to that tree?
Yep.
If God told you to stay away from the tree, how are you so close to the tree that the serpent can come tell you eat this fruit? And I think that's our lives as Christians. We try to so much tiptoe the line of sin. Like, yes. I'm not sinning yet. Like, is this a sin? Is making out a sin? Is dry humping a sin? Is all this a sin? And before you know it, like, well, I fell over the line. Might as well just stay here and just make a huge mess. And I think as Christians, we gotta let's not see how close we get to the line. Let's see how close we get to Jesus, because we know Jesus is far, far, far away from that line. Thank you for watching this video. If you want more content, subscribe over here and watch the next video over there. God bless you.